Hello, this is the Lord's Legion yet again with a brand new countdown. And in this video, we're going to be counting down the top 10 DC animated movies. Now bear this in mind, I haven't seen every single DC animated movie out there, so please recommend me some that I haven't put onto this list. So without further ado, let's get on to the countdown. So kicking off the list we have Justice League Gods and Monsters. Now this film is probably the most unique onto this list, mainly because we focus on a completely different universe with a whole new trinity being full on anti-heroes. What really works about this film is the fact that it has a whole different universe and it just feels quite organic. And it really does shake up the universe from what we've known and then just twist it on its head and then just change it completely and make it completely fresh. And the main trinity themselves, such as Batman, Superman and Wonder Woman, are not quite who we thought they were. However, they feel so fresh, different and very interesting. And if they decide to make a sequel to this film, I will be very interested in going back into this universe because it just feels so different, fresh and very interesting. Coming in at number 9 we have Justice League Doom. Now this film is loosely based within the Tower of Babel storyline, however they decided to change it slightly so that they can include more of the Justice League, while at the same time adding some elements of Batman's story arc. What I like about this film is the fact that they actually focus on Batman's paranoia and what would happen if his plans go into the wrong hands, in particular Vandal Savage and his unique team of the Legion of Doom. Despite how it focuses heavily on Batman, the rest of the Justice League as well as the Legion of Doom have their time to shine, and at the end of the day I think this is a solid animated movie. So for number 8 we have Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. Not only is this film very personal for Terry McGinnis, but also very personal for Bruce Wayne as well, and it makes both of them the main protagonists. On one hand we focus on Bruce Wayne and how he copes with the Joker's return, while on the other hand we see Terry McGinnis and trying to become the real successor for Bruce Wayne. And of course the highlight for this film would be of course the flashback on the Joker's final hours before his death, as well as the final fight between Batman Beyond versus the Joker. And this film really does answer the question everyone's been wanting to know, whether or not Terry McGinnis is the right successor into becoming the next Batman. Coming in at number 7 we have Batman Assault on Arkham. Don't be fooled with Batman being at the logo because it focuses heavily within the Suicide Squad. And unlike the live action film, this film actually does spread out each character and give them their time to shine. And of course this film is probably one of the most mature DC animated movies that has ever came out. And of course in this film the Joker makes an already better villain than the Enchantress from the live action film, and it feels a lot more believable when we see the squad go up against the Joker. Admittedly this film is nothing high art, but if you want a really fun film that is very mature and graphic, then I suggest you give this one a try. And of course it also scores points for respecting the Arkham universe that this film is based on. For number 6 we have Batman Under the Red Hood, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this for putting this low on the list, but trust me, I really love this film. I just think this film is incredibly overrated and people just cling onto it too much. But saying that though, they decided to do the Red Hood storyline rather faithfully, while at the same time slightly alter his resurrection and make it more believable. And on top of that, literally every character has been handled rather well. Batman was done great, Red Hood was awesome, the Joker was menacing, Black Mask was an interesting villain, and even Nightwing with his limited screen time had his fair share of fun. And despite how I personally find this film to be incredibly overrated, I cannot deny how fantastic this film really is. And it really does the Red Hood's introduction justice. So for number 5 we have Batman the Killing Joke. And I wish this film was a lot higher, but the thing is, the first 30 minutes of this film is very disjointed, has little to nothing to do with the Killing Joke, and completely destroys Barbara Gordon's character within one certain scene. But when you go past that point, when you actually see the Killing Joke, it is just unbelievable. The Joker has never been this scary in any other animated film or animated series before this point, not to mention that the actual storyline is done very faithfully. Plus, Batman and the Joker's chemistry has never been better before, and even the shock value remains the same. Also add in the fact that Mark Hamill can actually add a human side to pre-Joker and at the same time make a monstrous Joker from the present, then you get what I consider at least a very solid adaptation of The Killing Joke. Coming in at number 4, we have the very underrated Superman vs. the Elite. And I honestly don't see why many people talk about this film, because this is a very solid Superman story. Now this film really does make Superman question whether he should keep his criminals in prison or just completely kill them off. But at the same time we get introduced into this group of anti-heroes called the Elite, led by Manchester Black, who is just executing every criminal they can find. Now what I love about this film is the fact that they really make Superman question his own morals, while at the same time also adds in some of the very best Superman action I have ever seen. Also the fact that they made a C-list character like Manchester Black into an incredibly badass and memorable villain. And this film shows to me that you can have a Superman that can do a little bit of destruction and cut loose, while at the same time still caring about civilians. So for number 3 we have Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox. Now this is the only film on this list that is connected with the new DC animated universe, and it's crystal clear as to why that is, because a lot of them are mediocre at best, while this one was very special. And this film follows heavily on the Flashpoint story arc and actually follows it dead faithfully. The Flash was an amazing protagonist this time around, as well as the other Flashpoint characters, and even Reverse Flash was a very threatening villain. Plus the ending with the New 52 universe was a very nice touch. And at the end of the day, there is a clear reason as to why the Flashpoint Paradox is a fan favourite amongst the DC fans. And for our runner-up we have Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, both part 1 and 2. And I may be in a small minority, but I feel like these films are way better than the actual book. At points it was difficult to read, the art was very hit and miss, and on top of that the structure just felt completely disjointed. But these two films, despite following heavily on the book, really does fix a lot of the problems that I had with the book. The film captures the visual elements of the original graphic novel and in some ways even improves on them, not to mention that the characterization of each character still remains the same from the original graphic novel. And despite how the films is split into 2 parts, they feel like their own separate movies, while at the same time they feel like one massive story in of itself. And this is without a shadow of the doubt the best adaptation out of any Batman story to date. And for number 1 we have Batman: Mask of Phantasm. Based within the DC animated universe, but it's also its own original story in of its own. Although this film can be slow at times, it does really focus heavily on Bruce Wayne and his life. We also delve into Bruce Wayne's past, and we also get introduced to some new characters, as well as the return of the Joker, who is now a lot more brutal than any other version of the Joker in the DC animated universe. Not to mention the Phantasm itself is a rather threatening villain, and the revelation of who it is very fascinating. And to top it all off, this is debatably the most definitive Batman movie of all time. And it really does capture everything related to Batman. And at the end of the day, this is why I put Batman: Mask of Phantasm as my number 1 DC animated movie of all time. So what is your favourite DC animated movie? Please comment below and share some thoughts. Thank you guys for watching this video, please like and subscribe. Take care guys, and as always, have a good one.